As you said, my name is Chad Williamson. I'm the CEO of FluidEducation, and FluidEducation is the newest of kind of the suite of companies that I've built over the last 20 years. We are a purpose-driven education management company focused on helping to create accelerated and affordable access to higher education. Our goal is to help the 46 million Americans who have some college credits but no college degree. Somewhere along their pathway, they determined that this was important. The education was a way to lower the barriers and create access, increase marketability, and enhance earnings capacity. But something stood in their way of accomplishing that goal. And with my 20 years in the education industry, what I understand is disproportionately that 46 million people, that number is disproportionately represented by Blacks and minorities. Somewhere to the tune of around 46 to 48% of those individuals that haven't accomplished their degrees are Blacks and minorities. And we become even more disproportionately affected by our inability to network and market in a way that allows us to get access to higher paying jobs that don't require degrees, because we may not have that same circle of influence that our peers have. And so that's what has kind of led me and motivated me in this industry. But now I want to kind of back up and take you to what got me here. So when I finished school, I went to work for a full service marketing ad agency in South Florida. I was an account manager, and we managed mostly tourism industry, bars, restaurants, cruise lines, hotels, helping them to increase their marketing and to generate new customers, right? Lead generation. They had some creative ways of doing that. But it was really through kind of sensational promotions. How do you get people in? Buy one, get one free on a cruise to the Bahamas. And I very quickly, realized I had an affinity for working with business owners, helping them to build and enhance their brands and create new opportunities for engaging consumers, and really absolutely loved it. Worked up into that space for a couple of years, and then got to a place where I knew that I had kind of hit my ceiling. But one of the things that I learned there, that had always kind of been a part of my outlook on life, I don't think I ever recognized it. I was an internally optimistic person, right? I looked at the half full glass and always said the glass was half full versus half empty. But I had a boss that was a part of his mantra. We're still friends on Facebook, Frank Pagano. And he taught me a few things. I don't want to say lucky that I fell into, but one, it was the circle you keep around you, right? Your network will become your net worth. I learned that at the ripe age of 24, working with him. Have around you people who are like-minded, who are driven, who want something for themselves. He also had this, you never saw him. He was Italian. He came from Jersey, New York area. And, he grew up poor. So he wore Versace, everything from head to toe. And you never found him with less than like $6,000 in his pocket, like at all times. Like, just that's how he knew he had money, if he could carry $6,000 around at any given time. And then in this life, because we were doing promotions and events and things like that, I was making $26,000. My wife was probably making around the same, but I was eating in the best restaurants, going on cruises, going out to dinner in limousines, because the industry, afforded you that, because it was kind of like shared promotions. So it also taught me to kind of imitate the life that you aspire to, not to live outside of your means, but give yourself a taste of that life so that you can know, this is something I want more for myself. Fallon, I see you here on the call, and I saw the post that you made after you came back from Affiliate Summit, right? And I think you got some of that in the professional sector. You've been working in this industry already for over a year, starting to do well for yourself, but seeing the people around you and how they're dressing and what they're doing and the moves they're making, I think, based on what your post said, inspired you even more to want to dig in and go, yes, I know I'm on the right path. I want more of this. And that became important for me, because I decided to leave that organization and kind of move into to grow. I ended up going to the University of Phoenix. They were creating a new position for a business development specialist. And basically, it was lead generation. They wanted us to go out, create relationships within the professional community so that we could access the employees at the companies and organizations within our marketplace to generate leads that we brought back to the university for the university work. Now, this was offline lead generation. We were setting up information tables and education fairs and benefits and career events and things like that. But it was the same exact thing, generating leads. And very, very quickly, I was able to become successful. What was neat was we had 171 campuses across the nation, and there was one of these representatives, a business development specialist at every single campus. So there was 170 of us, 171, and every month they tracked how you were doing. How are you performing in comparison to the other 170 of your peers? And within 4 months, I was #1 in the nation. Within 6 months, I think I'd rewritten the training for the entire nation. And by month 9, I was running the Southeast region and mentoring the rest of the nation on how they should be effectively doing this job. And all I did successfully was bring in all that I had learned in the 2 years experience before, working with corporate business owners, decision makers, and figuring out what consumers were looking for to engage with those businesses more effectively. And it became a successful strategy. In fact, it became the strategy that they rolled out across all of the for-profit universities across the nation that were looking to model, mimic, and imitate the growth and success that the university had had. So needless to say, I became a priceless commodity with people calling me and trying to recruit me to come and help their organizations. And so I decided to leave there and start my first company, 𝗀𝗲𝗁𝘀 Group, a business development firm, basically doing the same thing, a combination of the two, working with universities to help them build out their business development units and working with small businesses to help them grow their businesses through acquisition of new customers and new clients. But we were still using that offline model, reps out there in the field talking and networking and doing this, and it became very, very difficult to scale. And as the EDU sector really took off in 2007 with the downturn, right? Education, as you probably know, is countercyclical. When the market, the economy is down, everyone goes, oh my God, I'm being downsized, jobs aren't as prevalent. I need to go back to school, retool, remarket, re-educate myself so I can have access to increased opportunities, right? When the market is up and the economy is great, education does okay, but people don't have time to go back to school, right? I'm busy. I'm doing well at work. Life is good. Forget education. Who needs some stinking education? So when the downturn hit in 2007, going in 2008, education exploded, and that became our centralized focus. And what I was seeing was our model that we were using for this field lead generation, which we still do to this day, by partnering with corporations and doing education events and webinars and things like that. That was great. But the individuals that were out there killing it were the folks who were running call centers. Digital media hadn't really gotten it crazy big yet, right? We're talking about 2008. But these call center people were absolutely murdering it. We're doing, 1,000 leads a month, and they're out there doing 10, 20, 30,000 leads a month. Obviously, some doing hundreds of thousands of leads a month. And I was like, we've got to get into this side of the business. And so we got into the call center side. We said something that we could control, something that we could do really, really effectively versus trying to dial into the lead gen side of things, internet based, and did well. We had a call center in Tucson. We had an offshore call center in Nicaragua, and off to the races we went. Lead generation, lead acquisition, lead scoring, all of that stuff to really be able to create high-level engagement, high-level prospective consumers for specifically in the education industry. At this time, I was just an education company, never even crossed my mind that I could be doing something else. This is what I know for lead gen. And that went along all the way, riding happily until 2013. um, when 2012 TCPA came out. The new TCPA laws came out, and the first thing that all the education companies did, they said, pause all of our call center traffic while we figure this out. And we'd had pause orders before for various reasons. So we're thinking, no problem. We'll just do some retraining. This will probably take a week for them to figure it out, and we'll go. A week went by, nothing. Hey, we're still figuring it out. A month went by. Hey, we're still figuring it out. It took us, I think, 5 months before our partners finally said, we've got this thing dialed in. We understand what it means. Now we're ready to start. And by that time, we had lost our call center. We had to let everyone go like in month 2.5, month 3 or something along those lines, and really had to go back to a rebuild mode. And so we decided from that point forward, we were going to focus on high quality data aggregation through a number of different channel partners, as well as internally owned and operated pages, and that we were going to outsource the data to various centers that could perform, because by outsourcing, we had the ability to scale up and down immediately based on our immediate need. So if TCPA or something like that ever happened again, we knew that we could just tell our agents, maybe with a week's notice at most, hey, we need everything to pause until we turn back on, and we wouldn't have been shelling out, almost 4 months worth of payroll for our own internal call center, not being able to have them work. So just some of the lessons you learn in the business. And I think the most important area of the business that we learned was we can no longer be a one-trick pony. So first of all, we have to diversify outside of call center only lead acquisition, which was our main generator. We had the business development channel, but was very high quality, very low quantity. But our 90+% of all of our production came through our call centers, and we knew we had to create a digital media strategy. So we kind of started our digital media agency, brought in some, we were still in Tucson at the time, brought in some recent graduates from the University of Alabama and put them to work. University of Arizona, sorry. University of Arizona, and said, show us what you know. Honestly, some of these people had graduated with degrees in marketing and degrees in communication. They hadn't taken one single social media marketing class, which was insane to me, at the master's level and the undergraduate. So we got a bunch of webinars and certification programs and tutorials, and basically said, dive into this stuff, read everything. I read everything. My office manager read everything. We put our strategies for moving forward. And then lastly, we diversified. Instead of we claimed that. We said, listen, that's what we are. We're a lead generator. And if we can be successful in this highly regulated, slow-paying industry of education, we can be successful in any other industry as well. So we added, in 2014, we added insurance, auto insurance, because the data that we were aggregating to that point was just middle-class America, right? Average age was 42, average income was $50,000. Folks who were looking to save money on insurance. It made sense to us. We were doing a lot of lead generation, as well as started doing a lot more warm transfers in that space as well. And it worked out very, very well for us. Insurance quickly became our largest vertical, auto insurance. Then we added home insurance and rode that way for a couple of years. And our weekly call one day, and he said, yeah, kind of what's going on, where we're prospecting. And he said, yeah, I just turned on a solar campaign as well. We've got a small team that we segmented off that is doing solar, warm transfers. And I was like, oh, what are we making on those? And I think he said like $19. And I was like, cool, no big deal. It was like a team of 10 or so, and we were maybe doing 50 of these per day. And I just didn't think anything about it, because I didn't know anything about solar lead generation. So, always networking, talking to folks. I got on a call with one of our previous clients, and we were just chatting it up. And, there was no opportunity, no increased, as you all know, in the lead generation business, we're always calling our clients, seeing how things are going, and asking for additional allocation, right? Planning allocation for next month, but hey, do you have any additional capacity? Anything else you need? Can I get more budget? And so this long conversation, nope, nothing. We don't have anything at the time. Let's touch base next month like we always do and see where things open up. And something prompted me as we're literally closing out the call. I said, you know, anything else? You guys working on anything else over there? And he said, yeah, you know, we just got into this solar thing and we're hitting it pretty hard and heavy right now. I was like, oh yeah, we just started dabbling in solar as well. You know, I was like, how's it going for you guys? He's like, oh, it's pretty good. You know, we're getting about $65 per lead and, you know, we're shifting all of our focus. I almost choked. I don't know if I was drinking water or what, but I literally almost choked. I'm like, wait, you're getting $65 a lead? How is that possible? He's like, that's the industry average. And I went back and, you know, messaged on Skype, you know, how much are we getting on solar again? And sure enough, my VP came back and said $19. So obviously a consummate salesperson. And that individual, I said, hey, look, I'm producing solar. You know, what's your cost to generate them? I'd love to send you my production because we're not getting quite that much. And he's like, no, we're full capacity in-house, don't have any ability to buy anything external. And we ended the call. I literally, this was like a Tuesday, I think. I canceled all of my meetings for the rest of the week and just started doing research on who are the players, who am I connected to on LinkedIn? You know, who do I know? I started calling around and asking people, got a list of some of the players. And I personally spent the next 3 days calling all the major players in the solar industry and getting this lined up for contracts. Needless to say, by Monday of the next week, we weren't getting 60, but we were getting 45 for those same exact transfers. And we began shifting a large part of our business over. A couple of things that we learned there was by moving higher in the qualification, instead of just generating a lead or a warm transfer, we were starting to do things like verifying the house on Google Earth and seeing whether or not the house had shade on the roof, or if there were trees nearby, or which way it was facing. And all of those additive incremental measures increased the value of our leads. So within 90 days, we went from selling $45 transfers to selling $125 transfers with all of that kind of additional clearing. And what was really great was, if anyone knows the education industry or is in the education industry like Sean and myself, and as Michael Faree used to be, they'll know that education pays 30 net 30. And usually you actually get paid 30 net 60, and sometimes as late as 30 net 75, right? And we're just used to it. That's the business. You figured it out. You built your business around having enough capital to make it 90 days and keeping that rolling. All of a sudden, we're getting paid weekly net 7. And in some cases, clients were offering to prepay us for our production if we would move our production over. And it was like, wait a minute, this is like a twilight zone for me. How are people paying this fast in this industry? And all these little things were moving us further and further away from EDU. Long story short, we had a really nice run about 18 to 24 months before the tax incentives and some of the other legislative measures made it a lot more difficult to be successful in solar, and we kind of transitioned out of the solar market. And so a few things that we learned. One, be nimble, or as in the name of our new organization, be fluid. You have to constantly be networking and marketing and keeping your ear on the pulse of the industry and what's going on and how to move the needle further. You know, being connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't just a place to post your profile so that people can connect with you. You have to actively connect with other people on LinkedIn so that your circle, your network that determines your net worth becomes larger, more expanded, and more expounded. And always be willing to test new things. And it's funny, I took those things down and really, you know, broke them down in their most basic terms. That so fast forward and just quickly, my poker buddy, we would have poker nights over at a number of friends' houses. So we've known each other now for, gosh, going on what, 14 years, I think, Michael. Kids played together, watching them now go off to college in their different directions. So it's super cool. But Mike came from a different industry, and we talked a lot. He was looking to get into the lead gen side, and I was telling about all the stuff we were doing in education. Mike, I wish I had known about insurance back then. I probably would have given you an even better path. But and he ended up getting in with a really great firm and running their biz dev, really focusing on EDU. They were EDU first, and then they expanded into a number of other brands. And so it just kind of goes to show you how this circle of connectivity and influence just continues to guide, direct, and inspire. Sean and myself now work together in the Fluid company and a number of other endeavors, trying to build this, because Sean's focus is how do we help more minorities, more Blacks specifically. I'm gonna call it out. How do we help more Blacks get to college? And all of these schools, the 4,200 colleges and universities that need help, we've got 100, I think, what, 123, Sean, is it? 123 historic Black colleges. I'm sorry, what's the number?
107.
107. See, it keeps me right. 107 historic Black colleges and universities, and everyone knows the Ivies, right? The Hamptons, the Morehouses, Spelmans, and Howards, but there are so many other small HBCUs that have been trudging along for almost 200 years trying to educate Blacks that are barely getting by. And so when he saw the model of what I built, the first thing he said is, I want to build this to specifically help historic Black colleges and universities do the same thing, because the majority of the money that's being made in these for-profit universities that have been doing this for so long has come from minorities. At least disproportionately as it relates to the per capita of the how those minorities are represented as a percentage of overall America. And we're already seeing people moving down that pathway, but it's by organizations that may not have as much of the best interest of those colleges in mind. So that's kind of my generalism of what got me from there to here. The EDU space, we really moved away from the lead generation side of EDU. We've got a couple of small relationships that we keep up just because they're set it and forget it campaigns, but it just didn't make sense to go through for the lowering of the payouts, how long the payment cycle works, when now we're in auto and home and health and life and mortgage and real estate, in addition to testing other verticals where we've continued to see success. And not to get all financial here, but I think it's also important, you know, to go from making $150,000 to $200,000 a year in corporate America. Everyone said I was crazy when I said I'm leaving all that behind to go and start my own company. They're like, you're on the pathway to success. You know, you'll be able to retire early and all of that. And I look up and I look at how hard we worked for those first probably 4 years after I started my company to turn a corner. But even then, when we were struggling, I was still making more than they were paying me to kill myself for someone else's company. And that's what I knew. I believed in myself enough to know if I can go out here and make this much, because I could track my revenue. I knew I was making $25 to $50 million a year for my company, and they were begrudgingly paying me the $200,000 while acting like they were doing me a favor. And when we finally turned that corner and got to multi-million-dollar plus in sales, it was so validating of trusting in yourself, even when you don't have any visible points to say why you should trust and believe in yourself, right? It wasn't because I've done this a million times at that point. Now I can say I've done it enough where I could lose it all today and start over tomorrow, and I know exactly the success I would be able to create for myself and my family. Speaking of which, that's the professional side. I'm married. I'll be 21 years married to my wonderful wife, Wendy, in January of this year. We have 2 boys, 19 Ian and number 12 Chase. Ian will be going in the spring to Alabama A&M. They are an HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama, where his mother and his aunt also went to college. And super excited about that. And I got Ian started with a HubSpot certification in social media marketing when he was 15, I think. Started him trading with E-Trade at 14, and now 19, he's kind of working in one of our companies, doing a lot of administrative work and learning now the other side of the business the call center side, the vendor management, and kind of the management of the business. But he's been studying internet marketing, running social media marketing campaigns for about the last 4 years. So I believe in not just talking talk, but also walking the walk.
So Chad, with that in mind, again, because I love it, because I've seen Ian's
close out.
I want to let you get some water. You're getting choked up.
I'm here.
You okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. My guess, maybe it's my internet connection. I'm fading a little bit in and out every once in a while, so I do apologize if I interrupted. Incredible story.
No,
I love it.
You sound good.
Excellent. Incredible story. Again, I feel like even though I've known you for a couple of years now, I'm always getting a little bit more detail. I love that the little nuggets are extremely important. And some of the keys and takeaways from what you mentioned to us earlier, as far goes the networking, always learning, diversifying over industries across the board. Again, when a challenge like a TCPA is thrown at you, how do you sit back and kind of bob and weave to get around that? What I like to ask you a question in regards to barriers to entry. Right now, again, not everybody that's on this call or everybody who will be listening to this is an incredible networker like yourself. Again, what do you believe is maybe the largest barrier of entry for a person of color to get into this space?
Yeah, so I think in this space, as in life, the largest barrier to entry is the limitations that we put on ourselves. Walking into a room where we may be the only minority, the only person of color present, and being uncomfortable, choosing to be uncomfortable in a way that makes you not want to come back into that room or not to explore that room more deeply, right? Regardless of the situation and the circumstance that's outside of our control, what we can control is our presence and our ability to show up. And so it's important. We have, if we feel like, oh, I'm the only Black in the room, or the only minority in this meeting or whatever, and all eyes are going to be on me and I'm uncomfortable, then put yourself in a place where you're going to be comfortable having all eyes on you. How you dress, how you present yourself, how you communicate, so that if all eyes are on you, you're getting benefit from that additional exposure instead of allowing that additional exposure to shut you down and cause you to be uncomfortable in a way that you don't move into and through that opportunity. I've sat at a table celebrating the lifetime achievement of Fred Smith, who started FedEx. And we had around the table probably 50 of the Fortune 100 CEOs. The only Black person there besides myself was, and oh, his name just slipped me, but he was the CEO, Marvin Tillis, no, Marvin Ellis. He was the former CEO of Sears at that time. I think he was JCPenney's actually at that time, and he's just moved to another organization. But that was it, the only two in the room, and I'm holding court, right? And I loved it. They're laughing and joking, want to take pictures, hugging. I try to disarm people with charm, effectiveness, and energy. And being able to show up and be your authentic self, but to know that any room that you're in, you have the right and the presence to be there. And if you don't feel like you do, you need to educate yourself and increase that presence that you bring to the table. And that doesn't mean show up trying to be the smartest person in the room. I'm going to go back to again, Fallon, is when you showed up at that conference, you just wanted to learn more. I think we spent 30 or 40 minutes just talking about what you were going to see and what questions to ask and what to do. That's okay. Ask for help if necessary. Tell them that you're just getting started, you're exciting, and you want to learn more, and you'd love to network and to mentor and to get to know people better, and let that be the way that people pull you in. But don't be afraid to be there, to be present, and to make your presence seen, felt, and heard.
I love that. And you know what, to me, that speaks to the boldness of people who are successful. I've heard so many stories and so many different speeches in regards to not being afraid to jump into the deep end of the pool, especially, again, knowing that, again, you let your boldness actually speak for itself, And I think that goes up to a lot of the portion of the connections. So often, again, you mentioned in your speech where you actually wanted to learn more about a particular industry, and you used your LinkedIn connections to sit back and do that to further educate yourself, again, which I love. Again, right now, do you believe, again, actually, how do you believe others are using their connections to their advantage, or maybe not using it at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think there, and maybe that's something that we can do, Sean. And I'm obviously all of us do it differently, and maybe taking a time on one of our calls to go through some of the tips and tools and tricks, dare I say, to effective networking. And here's a quick one for you. I'd go to a conference, I'm meeting thousands of people, literally. You're connecting business cards, trying to make quick impressions. And then when I go back and I'm adding people on LinkedIn and all of that good stuff, you know, I sometimes don't even remember the conversations, or did I just pick up someone's card at a table and they didn't have time to talk? Like I'd have notes out of maybe 100 to 200 cards that I had. Maybe I only had written notes on 25 of them. So what about this other 75 or 100? And I realized the same way that I don't remember how many people I talked to or whether I talked to that person's probably not going to remember whether I did or not. So I just generally started going, hey, look, I enjoyed meeting you, enjoyed our brief conversation, wanted the chance to get to know you better, like to add you on LinkedIn and maybe schedule a follow-up call. And what I found in probably 15 years of doing this at conferences, I've never once had someone go, we didn't meet and we didn't talk and you've got me confused for someone else. I had people say, you know, I'm so sorry, I don't remember talking to you, but I'm glad we're connecting now. Let's schedule a time to connect, or et cetera, et cetera. But never once have I ever had someone say, I think you've got me confused for someone else. I never met you, I never talked to you. And so just that alone allowed me to draw people in, because they're like, hey, if we talked and connected and you got my card, then we're supposed to connect. So again, the boldness of being able to say, hey, whatever I've got to do, obviously within limits, to say, let me get in front of someone, let me connect with someone, and let me further that connection. How many of us have thousands of people in our LinkedIn now that we don't even know why they found us or how they found us, versus really trying to manage who we're putting in our circle so that we have the ability to reach back in and stay in touch, not just when we need them, but along the way, commenting on their comments and their news and their updates, and reaching out randomly and just saying hello when you don't want anything at all, so that when you do, you've got an open door to reconnect.
Love it. You know what, to me, I feel like what I'm hearing is that you, at a very young age, maybe I think it was 24, maybe it was even before that, you came to an understanding and you recognized what your superpower was. To me, I believe that every individual walking this planet has a superpower. Some people recognize it at a younger age. Some people recognize it when they get older. Some people never recognize, because they don't do the due diligence necessary to realize what their superpower is. Is it the power of influence and connection? Is it the power of speech? Is it the fact that, you know what, they can run like a Usain Bolt? Is it what is their superpower? Sometimes it's mental, it's physical, whatever it might be. It might just be the fact of, again, just having the boldness to reach out. You might not know much of anything, but you're bold enough to ask the question. And that question is going to get you, get you highlighted to the point where somebody's going to answer that question for you and kind of go from there. So that I love. Does anybody have any? I'm gonna open it up to. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, really quick. I love that. And, you know, I think it's easy for us when we say superpowers to think about the Supermans and the Wonder Womans or whatever, that were born with these gifts already. But I like to use Batman in that example, because Batman didn't have any special powers. What he did was he said, I'm going to learn some skills, and I'm going to put lots of tools on my tool belt, my utility belt, that will allow me to be a superhero and to go out and do superhuman like things. And that's important, that to be able to go like, well, I don't have this or I don't have that. We have the ability to develop ourselves in a way that we can then exert our superpower in the world and on the world.
Yep. Again, with an incredible work ethic. Batman is probably the best example that you could have used by far. So completely agree. Does anybody have any questions? Again, I want to make sure that I stay sensitive to time. We have about 10 minutes left, but does anybody have any questions for our speaker today?
No, I just want to say thank you, Chad, for sharing. I think that, the words that you've shared with everyone can really be applied in, the acceleration of all of our careers. I think, your comment about, being the only one in the room, holds true for all of us, right? We were all just at Affiliate Summit together, and, when many of us got together, it seemed as though it was the first time that something like that had ever occurred. And we need to do more of it, right? I think that, networking is, something that this group can definitely do more of amongst each other, and continue to spread the word within our organization as well, or within, the industry as well, to continue to drive more, more individuals that look like us together and have these types of conversations. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for sharing, Chad.
Thanks so much, Matt. I really appreciate that.
And Matt, to your point, remember when we got together at Affiliate Summit, what was wild is that there was almost an awkwardness that we had to almost get past the fact of us grouping together to sit back and chit chat for just regular conversation. It almost felt like, what is everybody thinking that so many people of color are all congregating together? Are they going to have some kind of, what are they doing? What are they doing? We got to keep them away from each other. It's most likely probably in our heads more than going on out what was going on in their heads, but we have to get past that. And I think that's something that this group here is meant for as well, is to sit back and have us develop a level of confidence as well as comfortability. Sit back and, you know what, guess what? Walk into the room, head held high, feeling good about it, knowing what you know, understanding what you don't know, but you're looking to learn, and sitting back and being in the midst of it all across the board. So that going back to that boldness. And so with that in mind, first, I want to say thank you, of course, to Chad for sharing his story. I do want to touch on a couple other things that we actually had. We actually have, Contact.io. And so with that in mind, I want to give, Mike the actual floor. Mike, can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with Contact.io? We're hoping that we have, a bunch of people going there, and whoever is going, can you speak to it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's this Sunday, crazy enough. So we're just wrapping up. Well, Lisa, pick up your badge this Sunday, and then obviously sessions are Monday and Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got about 450 people or so registered today, so we'll be between that and 500 at the time of the show. So it should be a nice focus show on calls and call marketing, contact strategies. But so I know I'll see Matt there. I know I may see some of you there. But it made me think Chad's thing too is also, I'm going to share a little tidbit here. It hasn't been 100% confirmed, but for Lead Generation World in San Diego in January, I'm actually talking with Damon John to be the keynote. And he kind of, you were just the whole entrepreneurial spirit, was making me think of that. And so I figured I'd share with you guys that he's likely going to be the keynote for Lead Generation World. And if you've ever heard him speak about his story and everything he's gone through and everything, it's going to be really, really awesome. So, and then certainly we're going to be planning some BLG events at Lead Generation World where we have more volume of people there and be able to, bring a better group together. So, but otherwise, that's what's going on.
Excellent. Well, with that in mind, guys, awesome. It is 1 minute after. Again, Chad, thank you very much for sharing your story. And thanks, before we actually do any kind of editing and put it out there, we'll let you listen to yourself and go from there.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.